It was my birthday, and as I woke up that morning, I sensed the familiar feeling of excitement in the air. Over the years, I had learned not to expect much from Ryan. He didn't make grand or extravagant gestures. His affection for me was always shown through small, subtle actions, like fixing things around the house, making sure my car was in good condition, or leaving a note to remind me of something important. These little acts of care meant more to me than any flashy presents or elaborate dinners. Still, on my birthday, a part of me couldn't help but hope for something more. When Ryan got ready for work and left without any sign that today was different, I wasn't surprised. Maybe a little disappointed, but not shocked. By now, I knew him too well to expect anything extravagant. We had been married long enough for me to understand that he expressed his love in quieter, more meaningful ways. I shrugged off the feeling, convincing myself that it was just another regular day. After all, birthdays had never been lavish celebrations in our home. I spent the day as I normally did, answering work emails, having lunch by myself, and keeping myself busy. I didn't want my thoughts to wander too much, but it was hard. The thought nagged at me throughout the day. What if Ryan had something planned for later? What if he was just waiting for the right moment? I tried not to get my hopes up too high. A small part of me, however, still wished that this year would be different. Maybe a surprise, a special gesture, something to remind me how much I meant to him. But that nagging feeling I had been carrying for the last few weeks was hard to ignore. Ryan had been acting a little strangely lately. He was being more secretive, especially with his phone. He seemed to be texting more than usual, often laughing at something on the screen before quickly hiding it. When I asked about it, he'd just say, "It's nothing, just Alex," with a shrug. Alex had always been a close friend of both of ours, someone we trusted like family. I never thought much of it, but the way Ryan said it, something about it seemed off. Alex had been a part of our lives for years, like a brother to both of us. We spent countless weekends together, trips to the beach, camping, dinners, and game nights. He was family, and I trusted him implicitly. Yet recently, I began to notice small, subtle things that made me uneasy. Glances, lingering touches, moments that seemed to go a little too far. I tried to dismiss it, telling myself I was probably overthinking it. They were just friends, brothers. Nothing more, I reasoned. But those thoughts wouldn't leave me. The day dragged on, and as evening drew near, I reminded myself not to raise my expectations. It was just another birthday. Maybe Ryan would come home with a bouquet of flowers, and we'd have a quiet dinner at home. Simple but sweet. That would be enough, right? But even as I told myself this, the voice in my head whispered, "What if there's more? What if I missed something? What if something has been right in front of me this whole time, and I didn't see it?" I pushed those thoughts aside, determined to enjoy my day regardless. After all, it was my birthday, and I didn't want to ruin it by overthinking. When Ryan returned home that evening, despite his usual calm demeanor, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of disappointment. He didn't have flowers or anything special with him. He gave me a smile, but it didn't feel like the celebration I had been hoping for. I greeted him, trying to hide my emotions, but then something unexpected happened. Ryan suddenly asked me to wait for a moment before disappearing into another room. I sat there, confused and curious about what was going on. Just as I was starting to wonder, the door opened, and to my surprise, Ryan walked in with Alex, both of them smiling widely. Before I could say anything, they gently guided me into the living room. My eyes widened in shock. The room had been completely transformed. Fairy lights hung from the ceiling, casting a soft glow over the space. Candles flickered on every surface, filling the room with warmth. A table was set for an intimate dinner, with a beautifully wrapped gift sitting in the center. The delicious aroma of food drifted from the kitchen, and my heart leapt in my chest. I had no idea they had been planning this. Ryan had been so quiet about it, and the effort it took for him and Alex to organize everything left me speechless. I looked around, taking in the decorations, the candles, and the thoughtful details. My heart swelled as I realized how much effort they had put into making this birthday special for me. It wasn't just about the decorations or the food. It was the care they had taken to make me feel loved, appreciated, and cherished. It was the thoughtfulness behind it all that truly moved me. I glanced at Ryan and Alex, and tears began to form in my eyes. I was deeply moved by their kindness and by the way they had united to create this unforgettable moment. It wasn't about extravagant gestures or big surprises. It was the little, meaningful things that showed how much they genuinely cared. The night passed in a blur of laughter, stories, and happiness. We made a toast, reminiscing about old memories and creating new ones. I couldn't have wished for a better birthday, one filled with love, joy, and warmth. It wasn't the flashy surprise I had once imagined, but it was perfect in its own quiet and significant way. The effort Ryan and Alex had made to make me feel special was the greatest gift I could have asked for. As the night came to an end, I couldn't help but feel overwhelmingly thankful for the people in my life, the ones who truly knew how to make me feel cherished. Another year had gone by, and Ryan and Alex appeared to be in high spirits, joking around as they typically did, but something seemed off. There was a sense of ease between them that I hadn't noticed before, something deeper than their usual camaraderie. The closeness between them felt more profound, more intimate. At first, I thought it was just their excitement over pulling off my birthday surprise. But as the night wore on, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that there was something else happening. Alex had always been charming, but tonight his attention was entirely focused on me. He complimented me at every chance, telling me how beautiful I looked and how lucky Ryan was to have me. Of course, it was nice to be complimented, but something about the way he spoke made me feel uneasy. He stayed a little too close, his gaze following me wherever I went. It wasn't obvious, but it was there, and I couldn't ignore it. What troubled me even more was that Ryan didn't seem to mind. In fact, he seemed to encourage it, laughing along and nudging Alex whenever he did so. As the evening went on, the atmosphere became more flirtatious. Alex's comments grew sharper, and I found myself torn between appreciating the thoughtful surprise and feeling more and more uncomfortable. Something wasn't right, but I didn't want to spoil the evening by overthinking it. They had gone to all this trouble to make me feel special, and that should be what mattered. Still, there were the little things. The way Ryan and Alex exchanged knowing glances, the shared smiles that seemed to convey something more. It was easy to dismiss it as nothing, but deep down, I started to wonder if I was missing something. I couldn't ignore the growing discomfort. Alex's gaze was more intense than usual, and the way he interacted with Ryan was almost too easy, too natural. They seemed to be in perfect harmony, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was going on. I wanted to believe it was all in my head, but as the night continued, my doubts only grew stronger. I excused myself to the bathroom, hoping that a moment alone would help clear my mind. But when I returned, I saw Ryan and Alex whispering quietly to each other, their heads close together. The moment they noticed me, they quickly pulled apart and resumed their laughter and smiles, but it felt forced. It was subtle, but it left me wondering, what were they talking about? Why did they seem so serious just before I came back? As we sat down to eat, I found myself paying closer attention to their interactions. When Alex handed Ryan a dish, their hands brushed. Just a quick touch, but it lingered a bit too long for my comfort. Ryan didn't react, but I did. It was a small thing, but it felt like a clue I couldn't ignore. The evening had been so perfect, so carefully planned, but this detail, along with others, began to make me question everything. The conversation around the table continued, but I wasn't really listening. My mind was racing, trying to piece together all the strange little moments. I remembered the secretive texts I had noticed over the past few weeks, the inside jokes, the unexplained late nights, and now here I was, immersed in an extravagant birthday celebration that seemed almost too perfect to be real. I wanted to ask Ryan what was going on, but the words wouldn't come out. What if I was wrong? What if I was just overthinking things and ruining the night with my suspicions? After all, this was supposed to be a celebration, but the doubt kept creeping in, refusing to be ignored. The small moments had accumulated, and I could no longer make excuses for myself. Something was happening between Ryan and Alex, and I needed to know what it was. The cool air hit my skin, but it did nothing to calm the storm inside me. I stood outside for a moment, trying to collect my thoughts, convincing myself that everything was fine, that maybe I was just being paranoid. But when I stepped back inside, I overheard it again. A hushed conversation, too quiet to be innocent. Ryan and Alex's voices were low, their faces guarded and secretive. I couldn't ignore it any longer. What had once felt like a surprise, a gesture of love, now seemed like a mask, something they were hiding. I wasn't supposed to know, I didn't grasp what was going on, but the feeling of dread intensified. I could no longer ignore it. I couldn't brush it off. The excitement of the evening had diminished, replaced by a creeping discomfort. Something was wrong, something significant, and it wasn't just the conversation. It was in the very air around us, thick with unsaid truths. I turned to Ryan, my voice calm though my heart raced. "What's happening?" I asked. He looked at me, shocked, as if he didn't expect me to inquire. "What do you mean?" His defensive tone only heightened the tension. I glanced at Alex, whose unease was obvious. He shifted in his seat, clearly avoiding my gaze. "You two have been acting odd," I said. "The whispers, there's something you're not telling me." My voice quivered with a mix of fear and frustration, the words almost choking me. Ryan and Alex exchanged a brief, telling look, and that's when I realized there was something between them, something they were keeping from me. The atmosphere felt heavier, almost suffocating. After what felt like an eternity, Ryan exhaled deeply, ran a hand through his hair, and avoided my gaze. His eyes were downcast, unable to meet mine. "Listen," he started, his voice trembling. "There's been hesitation on our part. I meant to talk to you about it, but we didn't know how." His voice trailed off, and I braced myself for whatever was coming. My stomach was in knots, paralyzed by the weight of what was unfolding. Whatever was happening involved both of them, and the longer they remained silent, the more the truth bore down on me. Ryan spoke again, his voice low, the words lingering heavily in the air. "Alex and I, we have a complicated relationship." The vague comment did little to ease the tension in my chest. I stared at him, waiting for clarification, but all I could hear was the pounding of my heart in my ears. "What do you mean, complicated?" I demanded, my voice rising with urgency. Ryan swallowed hard, his next words barely reaching me. "We've been seeing each other," he confessed softly. For a moment, the words didn't register. Seeing each other? My mind raced, struggling to comprehend the meaning. "What do you mean, seeing each other?" I repeated, my tone filled with disbelief. Alex finally spoke, his voice steady, but tinged with an emotion I couldn't quite place, guilt, or perhaps something darker. "It's been going on for a while," he said, his eyes filled with regret, and something else I didn't want to understand. It felt as though the floor beneath me vanished. The room spun as the truth crashed over me. All the little signs, the odd texts, the secrecy, Ryan's sudden distance, it all began to fall into place. My husband and his best friend, they had been deceiving me. Not with a one-time affair, but with a relationship that had been unfolding right before my eyes. Tears blurred my vision, but I fought them back. I couldn't allow myself to cry. I felt numb, frozen as the reality of their betrayal settled in. "How long?" My voice was barely audible. Ryan looked at me, his face pale with guilt, his expression filled with sorrow. "A full year of lies and betrayal," he confessed. I stared at both of them, too stunned to respond. A year. An entire year of deception. I felt like a fool, crushed under the weight of their treachery. I had believed in the life we shared, thought it was something meaningful, only to realize it had all been a lie. They had deceived me, and I had been too blind to see it. I stood there, speechless, the truth washing over me like a dark storm cloud. My heart was shattered, my trust in both of them gone. The love I thought we had shared had been nothing but a mask, and now everything I thought I knew had fallen apart before my eyes.